Merry Christmas, chaps. 'Tis I, Clownpuncher139. I hope you're all having an excellent holiday, whether you celebrate Christmas or not. As we all know, Sins channels don't always do a great job representing the greatness of the Arkham franchise. And what better way to prove that than with the most controversial Arkham game, Arkham Origins. Over the years, it's gone from the most hated to a common fan favorite. I didn't even consider it a part of the saga until a few years ago, and boy do I regret it. Chances are these Sins channels don't regret it though. Only one way to find out, by defending Arkham Origins from every single everything wrong with video. No time to waste, since we're up to 3 videos this time, and a lot more things they could get wrong. Yes, 3, because Gamingsins still hasn't archived their Arkham Origins video, and I'm not patient enough to wait for that upload. I need this thing out by Christmas. As I've said before though, don't go to these creators' channels and spam them with hate. I may be giving them crap for all of this video, but that's only because I respect the Arkham franchise more than their feelings. Do not go to their comments and say anything bad, you hear me?
I'm looking for Black Mask. Where is he?
I ain't here to talk. I'm here to kick your ass.
This is your last chance.
I know. Even if you about to be taught a lesson in pain.
Oh my god, what was the point?
Starting off strong, I see. Sitting the greatest boss fight in the entire series. For that, you already earned 20 sins.
The male victim is wearing a black mask, but I can't positively identify him as Roman Sionis without a DNA analysis. Something I can't do in the field.
How is that not something you can do in the field? I guess if you don't have Sionis' DNA, it makes sense, but you have a large database back at the Batcave. I'm sure that sending a DNA sample to Alfred will give some fruits.
He doesn't actually have a DNA database in the Batcave. You'll notice every other time he identifies a victim, it's through other means. Usually fingerprints or facial recognition, something the Batcave does have a database for. This body double was badly burned in the fire Joker set to the room after killing him, meaning these ways of identification were basically impossible.
I have a body, an unknown shooter, and an unknown assailant who attacked the shooter. I need to match the DNA samples against the records in the National Criminal Database to identify who was in the room.
Then why did you suggest that that wasn't an option earlier?
What suggested that he didn't say this was an option? He just said that he couldn't do a DNA analysis in the field, which is correct because he doesn't have a large DNA database. The National Criminal Database does, which is why he knows to go to it.
Talk, or you won't be walking anywhere, ever.
No way. You gotta answer for dropping me off that rooftop, buddy.
Loose Lips Santa hat fell down after Batman left him hanging. Did the GCPD get him down and he was like, hey, I really need my hat, and they just let him grab it?
Yes? What's so hard to believe about that? It's a pretty common police tradition to let assailants grab any belongings because it's still technically their property.
Alfred, confirm we now have access to the National Criminal Database.
Connection confirmed. You can now perform DNA analysis.
Oh, so you didn't have access to the DNA database, but you had access to a fingerprint database. How do you have access to one and not the other?
Because one is a lot more privatized, I'm sure. Fingerprints and facial recognition are pretty widely available, let's be honest. You can use both to open your phone and get through customs when arriving from the airport. A DNA database would need countless amounts of data from medical records and the like.
Not to mention, if the victim can only be identified through DNA samples and he turns out to not be a criminal, wouldn't you kind of run into a brick wall?
He would indeed, but this guy was in a private apartment owned by Black Mask, wearing said Black Mask. It's pretty heavily implied he was somehow associated with Roman Sionis, a known criminal, therefore making him a known criminal by association.
It's been you this whole time. You hired the assassins. You've been running Sionis' operation.
Well, technically it's my operation now.
God damn it, you couldn't go one game without making the Joker the main villain.
In a series dependent upon the relationship between Batman and Joker, no they couldn't. Furthermore, Origins was made by an inexperienced studio in the same time it took Rocksteady to make Arkham Asylum, 21 months. They needed to play at least some aspects safe, and the Joker is as safe as you can get.
killed you. And in a few more minutes, your body will realize it.
Oh, let me guess. Leave the hero in an easily escapable situation involving an overly elaborate and exotic death where you will then proceed to leave them alone and not actually witness them dying, just assuming it all went to plan cliché.
Close, except Copperhead was pretty justified in being this confident. Her neurotoxin is specially made and had no known antidote until Alfred made the medication. And what else would she have done? Fight Batman a little earlier than outside the service tunnels? He would still beat her just the same, then get the cure like normal. And she doesn't leave him to die alone. She stalks and taunts him the whole way, amazed that he's fighting back as much as he is. There's very little Copperhead could do differently that would result in her winning.
You know, with how fast Alfred is able to make antidotes and send them to Batman, it's a wonder why they don't make a courier system. They'd make a bigger fortune than Bruce Wayne already has.
Considering the method of delivery is via the Batwing, that would very quickly give away Bruce's identity. And if Bruce's identity wasn't at risk, he certainly wouldn't be charging for such a service. He may be a billionaire, but he's not going to charge a small fortune for life-saving medication like the US healthcare system.
Friends, assassins, welcome to our first quarterly performance review. As you can see here, Batman deaths are coming in far below projections.
So, does he have a voice modulator on the mask, or is the Joker just really good at doing impressions?
Well, if you look at the extortion files, you'll hear Joker swap between the voices almost on a whim. So, yes, he is just that good at impersonations. And considering Troy Baker is playing Joker, who is known for doing great voices, I wouldn't be surprised if he did a few of these lines himself instead of the actual Black Mask actor, Brian Bloom.
After years of on and off unconfirmed sightings with no recorded video.
Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and ask, how the hell does Batman exist in Gotham for 2 years and not once have the news broadcasters ever captured him on film? Maybe Batman's too good, maybe there was never a crime that warranted him sticking around to be caught in film, but you're telling me that no random Joe had their cell phone on them, or that security cameras never caught him?
Considering Batman likes to hide in the dark, yeah, it makes sense that nobody could have caught him on film. Security cameras only have such a high quality, which definitely wouldn't be able to make him out in the aforementioned dark. Plus, just look at this picture they used for the wanted poster. Someone did get a picture of him, but it's not exactly good enough to make anything out about him. So someone else almost certainly got video of him, but it was too dark or blurry for any of the news outlets to accept it as a true Batman sighting. They pass it off as speculation and find some way to debunk it. This is raw, light-filled video of Batman fighting criminals that can't be denied as anything but.
Sir, I strongly suggest you call in Captain Gordon. He could be a valuable ally for you.
I don't need any allies,
Said Batman, leader of the Bat family.
Only 2 years into his career when he believes he's more than a man, and this story shows how he develops and humbles himself overnight.
Bane didn't break Batman's back before throwing him out the window. For shame, Bane, for shame.
Because he's going to break it later during their second fight.
Welcome to Blackgate. We're gonna do a quick psychiatric evaluation.
I know that the Arkham series follows its own continuity, and I totally respect that, but wouldn't it make more sense for Harleen Quinzel, a psychologist, and the Joker, an insane criminal, to meet at Arkham Asylum? For the criminally insane?
You almost got this in right. In fact, they did meet in Arkham Asylum. If you recall the interview tapes from that game, they had Joker and Harley's first interaction. This game decided to retcon that by having them meet here, which is what you actually should have sinned.
Bane is still out there. I've got to locate the signal from the tracker I placed on him.
Even you must eat, sir.
If you hadn't called the police, he'd already be in custody.
If he hadn't called the police, your bag would be broken.
Sinning the dynamic between Bruce and Alfred. That's worth too many sins.
Master Bruce, stop! Master Bruce. Bruce, I will not in good conscience allow you to go. You're outmatched by these assassins.
What?
You're not some hardened vigilante. You're a young man with a trust fund and too much anger. You're in over your head, and I don't want this to be your end.
Alfred, who do you see when you look at me? The boy whose shoes you used to tie every morning? The teenager you drove to his first date? While you are here every night, I am out there.
Hold your horses, Dark Knight. You realize you wouldn't be able to do half the shit you do if it weren't for Alfred and him doing everything while you're out there. Talking to him like he has such an easy life worrying about you all night. Asshole.
And sending this amazing scene and the dynamic between these characters again. That's worth double sins.
Interesting. The victim was using a powerful compound with many similarities to the street drug Venom at the time of his death. It changes the user's muscle and bone structure, greatly enhancing strength for a temporary period. It appears that whatever this compound is, it reduces mental capacity in several ways, including severe damage to the brain's memory center. Prolonged use could seriously compromise the user's memory.
Ah, so foreshadowing to a Boosh excuse for an Ex Machina we'll see later. I see.
Not removing a sin for how clever these developers were for giving us a canonically possible smart Bane in a series known for its hulking idiot Bane.
Alfred, Firefly has hostages on the Pioneer's Bridge. I need to deal with him before coming back.
Can't you just let the police handle Mr. Linz? Especially in light of what we've just learned.
I can't abandon those hostages. They're in jeopardy because of me. Because of the bounty Joker placed on my head. They'll be safe in the Batcave.
Very debatable, Bruce. Bane knows who you are. It's only a matter of time before he finds the Batcave.
Sinning a character flaw. Especially when the other option for ignoring said flaw is letting innocents die.
Don't add me to the weight you carry.
We all know firsthand he survives. There's no need to make this as dramatic as it is.
Sinning this amazing scene. The drama of this scene isn't meant to be that Alfred dies. It's meant to come from the potentially final interaction these characters have and what Bruce learns from seeing his lifelong guardian and mentor almost lost. One amazing scene breakdown coming soon.
That being said, I don't quite understand how these work. These aren't defibrillators, they're fucking shock gloves that are meant to be weapons. This probably should have killed Alfred, if anything. And another thing, if these things can serve as defibrillators, how come we never use them again? They're awesome weapons, useful tools, and apparently work as a CPR device.
I'll give you the first one. Even I'm a little skeptical on their use as defibrillators, but Batman literally uses them to revive Bane less than an hour later. Plus, he doesn't use any of the new gadgets from this game later on, probably because they all broke or something. The glue grenades used an unstable chemical compound and were destroyed on New Year's. The remote claw was a prototype Deathstroke used and looked pretty shoddily thrown together. The concussion detonator was literally useless, and the shock gloves were probably seen as too violent as Batman matured, so he decided to stop using them.
Captain Gordon is calling on anyone. Anyone for assistance.
They need you.
No. They need us.
This right here is why I want an Alfred Pennyworth game. He gets the shit beaten out of him, dies, resuscitates, and immediately gets ready to help Batman again. He's not even tired or anything. Totally possible.
Claiming your want of a game as a sin.
Gordon, Joseph, I need your help to stop the Joker.
Our help? You're the so-called vigilante. Or is one kill enough for you tonight?
Hey, fuck you, Gordon. Police are killing people all the time, criminals are not. Especially in Gotham City. Still doesn't make it right, but you should know that Batman doesn't roll that way by now.
Well, he doesn't know Batman rolls that way, because he only sees him as a dangerous vigilante putting himself above the law. Gordon is the cleanest man in Gotham, so seeing someone thinking they're above the law sickens him, murderer or not. Plus, he didn't even want to admit Batman was real until they met up. Remember that opening cutscene? When he claimed there's no such thing as a Batman?
Master Bruce, can you hear me?
Yes, and thank you for the help with Bane.
I trust he's down for good this time.
He's secure, and it appears the TN1 Bane took damaged his memory permanently.
Oh, of course it did! Good for you! So, how did Bane find out about Bruce Wayne? The tracker? I guess it's supposed to be implied, but they never say anything about it. Why didn't he do anything with that information?
Firstly, sending this great idea of the developers. Second, Bane was planning to use this information to break or kill Batman. He invaded the Batcave and nearly killed Alfred, meanwhile smashing up all his systems. He wasn't going to go public with it, because why would he? What purpose would revealing Batman's identity serve in killing him? It would just make it impossible to operate, probably making him a recluse, making it harder to get to him and kill him.
Any one of my guys would have killed him.
The city deserves better than that.
Yeah, the city deserves maniacs like him to live and eventually break out and kill more people.
If you kill a killer, the number of killers in the world remains the same. Batman.
Gordon, come in!
I'm in the chapel. We got the Joker.
Son of a bitch. You caught him. And how did you do that?
I had some help.
I keep asking myself why I didn't bring him in. And I now know the truth is, I let him go because of you. Because you believe in him.
Boosh, you didn't bring him in because he escaped when you looked away.
True, but he's also trying to get Barbara back on his side. She doesn't believe he's doing the most noble job, being the only good cop in a precinct of corrupt ones. So, knowing that she idolizes Batman, he sympathizes with her to try and get some of their lost relationship back. His daughter is the only family he has left, so finding common ground in Batman is honestly for the best, even if he has to tell a little lie to her.
Sir, before you ask, the formula we used for your glue grenades was unstable. What was left after Christmas Eve was degraded into dust.
Oh, how very convenient that such a useful weapon was unstable. Next you're gonna tell me that my grapnel boost is unstable too, and that we have to make another prototype.
Believe you me, I am in the same boat when it comes to Origins' strange technology problem, but people have actually come up with decent evidence for how this makes sense lore-wise. Batman's Origins suit is much different than the one from Asylum and City. It's bulkier, appears to have more heavy armor, while the others are lighter and more mobile. So people have suggested that the early grapnel accelerator worked because Batman had a suit that could withstand the G-force the boost applied to him. But as he began making lighter suits, they couldn't withstand the Gs, so they needed new prototypes that would work with the suit and keep Batman alive. It's a little flimsy, I'll admit, but it's certainly better than nothing.
If Warner Brothers existed inside the DC universe, I'm quite certain Batman would have to raid the office to rescue the developers of his games. It can't be very fun to make a game like this. Imagine you're a hard-working developer who has a franchise you didn't create plopped into your lap by a huge media conglomerate with the instructions to make a game that plays just as well as the other games not made by you, sells as well, keeps the fans interested while the bigger, shinier follow-up cooks in the oven, and you have only a year to make it, and you have to scrape the bottom of the rogues gallery barrel for your villains. If there is any solace for these developers, it's probably that they made a less buggy game than Arkham Knight, and didn't force a Batmobile section down your throat again and again.
I genuinely can't tell if you're sitting the game, the devs, or just BSing me. Because all I heard was sympathy for the Origins devs for making a nearly impossible game and you incrementing the sin counter. That is a big no-go here. Also, calling this game less buggy than Arkham Knight? No. Just no.
A little fact that goes unmentioned in the world of Batman is that bats are a reservoir species for diseases that easily pass on to humans, so working in a cave full of them means Bruce Wayne is likely the patient zero of several world-ending plagues. Bruce even takes his meals down here for God's sake, not to mention the guano cleanup costs. The series never lets anyone see poor Alfred cleaning the mess off the Batmobile for a reason.
Okay, so this video was released on March 2nd, 2020, only about a week before the beer bug hit the US and everything shut down. Was this dude really making a joke about said bug wiping out half the Earth before it became the one thing we talked about for nearly 2 years? Also, why is this a sin of this game?
Police and emergency services are urging Gotham residents to stay off the roads and in their homes tonight in light of the severe winter storm still banished island.
Arkham City and Arkham Knight at least attempted to come up with a plausible reason for why Gotham City streets are filled with nothing but roving gangs of mass criminals by turning the city into a prison and evacuating it during a terrorist attack. With Origins' lazy excuse, I don't think they should have bothered. Apparently, the non-criminal citizens of Gotham fear a few inches of snow more than losing their children's love by not having the right toy for them on Christmas Eve.
I'd like to see you attempt to walk through a snowstorm to buy your kids the newest Transformer on Christmas Eve when the police force have instituted a curfew, no less. And guess what? Some people do go out. And guess what else? They get murdered!
Tonight, we put to rest one of Gotham's most heinous and relentless killers.
The fact that Gotham City has the death penalty is the most shocking reveal for me. I assumed the lack of one was the explanation for why criminals never seem to die after being put away by Batman after he catches them murdering uncountable numbers of people. Capital punishment sure would make the idea of sticking all the worst criminals in an asylum or a city block turned into a prison seem a tad redundant.
Batman locked people up in the asylum because he believes they can be rehabilitated. For a more in-depth explanation, see the Newsflash One Amazing Scene. Although I will give you some credit for questioning the death penalty in Gotham, because Gotham is canonically located in New Jersey, where capital punishment has been outlawed since 2007. Even though there's like a 10% chance you actually knew that when making this video, so I'll only give you one sin for this, even though you should be getting a lot more.
Black masked goons raided a prison armed entirely with their fists and baseball bats, judging by the ones Batman has to fight.
Or, and hear me out here, some of them just don't get guns because they aren't as important to the mission? Ever wondered why all of them don't wear body armor when they clearly have it? Sometimes resources can be scarce and don't go to every single party member.
Rather than use the explosives he carried for breaking down walls, Batman stands around and allows Black Mask to kill Commissioner Loeb in the gas chamber. He only gets into the room afterward because Killer Croc randomly smashed one of Black Mask's goons against the window for no reason.
If he just bursts into that room, fists blazing, what would he have done? He's got a bunch of goons, some of them probably armed and or armored, Black Mask himself, and Killer Croc in a very confined space. He may care about Loeb's safety, but he's not going to risk his neck when there's basically a 0.1% chance of getting himself out of there, and getting Loeb out to begin with.
In Arkham Asylum, Killer Croc looked like this. He did a lot of growing in the next couple years, which would actually make sense given that crocodiles continue growing for their entire life, except that Batman goes out of his way to explain that Killer Croc is just a mutant and has nothing to do with actual crocodiles.
What is the sin here? That Croc shouldn't develop throughout the years because he's a mutant? That's just stupid. Of course he's going to change over the years as his condition worsens. Hell, he grows a tail in Arkham Knight because of how bad it's gotten.
Here's a face I don't recognize. Copperhead. Strange. These reports reference a male, not a female.
I don't think anyone would have noticed Copperhead's gender being flipped, since I doubt most people even know who she was before this game.
Sending the most mild fan service. Who cares who gets the reference? Someone's going to see it and probably be happy. Just let them have their moment.
Since all of these assassins have been offered $50 million to kill Batman, why not use the untold billions at Bruce Wayne's disposal to make a counteroffer through one of Bruce Wayne's many obscure back channels to bring in Black Mask alive and get $100 million?
Because logically, Bruce Wayne would have no way of knowing there are assassins going after Batman, and doing so would completely out him as the Bat. Furthermore, these assassins don't do alive. In fact, no assassins do alive. Assassin means kill. They don't bring in their victims alive. For that, you gotta look for bounty hunters.
I'm a bit confused on the timeline. This game takes place years before Arkham Asylum, which took place in 2010, yet people in Origins use smartphones.
There is literally nothing that says Asylum took place in 2010. There aren't any years stated in any of these games. You're just pulling stuff out of your ass based on the release year, which was 2009 by the way, not 10.
Save me a lot of trouble coming here, Batman.
Penguin was the one keeping an eye on Black Mask with the drone, so what's with one of the assassins Black Mask hired doing randomly on his ship?
Being the most incompetent assassin, lazing about at the boiler deck fights rather than actually hunting Batman.
What happened to the tagline of this game? Your enemies will define you. What does a glass jaw and a villain no one knows about define about Batman?
Maybe, just maybe, it's talking about the ones of actual impact like Bane and Joker. Just a thought?
Deathstroke somehow tracked Batman to Penguin's ship. Batman had to triangulate cell phone signals to find this place. How did Deathstroke manage?
Because Deathstroke knows a thing or two about the Gotham Underground, which Penguin is attempting to take over. And Electrocutioner recovered after Batman kicked him in the face and probably squabbled to someone that Batman was on the ship. Or he's a highly trained assassin with years of training giving him the capabilities to track and kill someone?
Black Mask was found dead. That should mean the end of the assassination contract, but none of the assassins seemed to care. Also, if the police were investigating Black Mask's death, why didn't they seem surprised when he showed up at Blackgate Prison hours ago?
Because the assassins saw Black Mask, or rather Joker disguised as him, firsthand. This murder took place days ago. I'll give you the fact that the police should be suspicious, but the assassins know damn well Black Mask, or at least someone with money, is alive and well.
The police investigated Black Mask's penthouse after the murders, but removed none of the bodies or evidence.
They discovered this crime scene very recently, not moments after the murder took place. They're still investigating and gathering evidence. Also, removing evidence from a crime scene is literally the most illegal thing you could do at a crime scene. These cops may be corrupt, but they're still gonna do some things by the book.
Easy. I need access to the National Criminal Database.
It's right here.
While hacking Gotham PD's servers, Batman runs into Barbara Gordon. This is supposed to matter because later she becomes Batgirl and then Oracle after being crippled. But nothing about this meeting leads to her working with Batman. For a game that calls itself Origins, it's pretty weak on any of these origins.
But they literally do start working together as soon as Batman leaves the GCPD. She hacks his comms and asks for a favor to track down Penguin's weapons crates. This level of ingenuity was admirable to Batman, eventually leading to him bringing her on the team, especially after her Batgirl charade a few years later.
With all the police Batman beats up during this game, it's hard to believe they treat him as an asset a few years down the line.
Considering most of these officers are corrupt, they either reformed or got fired by Gordon, who we all know is Batman's greatest ally.
Black Mask wasn't murdered in his penthouse. He sent in a body double while the real Black Mask somehow came in through the balcony. The attacker shot and killed the body double the moment he entered the penthouse. The only problem is that the attacker planned to assume Black Mask's identity and needed him alive to use his biometrics to gain access to the Gotham Merchants Bank which he owned. The attacker shot the body double not knowing if it was the real one or not, and knocked the real Black Mask unconscious not knowing if that was the real one either.
Or he did in fact know. Joker knows a thing or two about Black Mask to begin impersonating him, so knowing he would send in a body double and killing said body double just makes sense.
Arkham Origins is yet another Batman game that sets up someone else from Batman's impressive rogues gallery to be the villain, only for a surprise. It was the Joker all along, meaning 3 of the 4 Arkham games use the exact same rug pull trick.
None of the other games do this rug pull trick. Arkham City's main villain is Hugo Strange. He merely works more behind the scenes than your traditional comic book villain, see One Amazing Scene. Arkham Knight's main villain is still Scarecrow. Despite being pushed to the sidelines quite a bit, he is still the ultimate force for Batman to overcome. This game does do the rug pull trick, because we were expecting Black Mask and we got Joker as the final force to be overcome. Yes, the other 2 games heavily feature Joker, but he is not the main driving force behind Batman's actions in those games.
It's been you this whole time. You hired the assassins. You've been running Sionis' operation.
Well, technically it's my operation now.
Troy Baker does his best as Joker, but when you're up against Mark Hamill's Joker, that's some big clown shoes to fill, especially when you have to mimic his iconic performance instead of coming up with your own interpretation.
Insulting Troy Baker's Joker. Again. Take another 10 sins.
Since Joker wants Batman dead, and even hired all those assassins to kill him, why not kill Batman here while he has him held up at gunpoint?
He tries to, but Batman is stronger than he thinks. If you listen to the conversation he has with the thugs when they enter the bank, you'll hear how disappointed he is with the current outcome. He notes that he shot him and dropped a building on him, but that he somehow survived. But the thugs remark that there is no body, so they now have to kill him or die at Joker's hands.
An empty promise from a fallen king. I know about the Joker.
How would you know about that? None of the other assassins know yet, and why work for someone who began the business relationship by deceiving you?
Maybe because she's in the steel mill, Sionis' base of operations, only to see his men have run a mutiny, leaving him chained up in this room. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that they have a new boss, especially when they keep mentioning someone by the name of the Joker. None of the other assassins know because they haven't seen this mutiny.
Black Mask exits the scene and is never brought up again. I know why the Joker couldn't kill Black Mask because of continuity, but it doesn't really make sense. Joker has everything he wanted from him, so Black Mask is just a loose end at this point.
Joker's keeping him alive because he thinks it's funny to see him suffer. He turned his men against him, made him shoot his girlfriend, and left him chained up to be tortured. Killing him now would just ruin the fun.
What did you do to me?
With Roger Craig Smith voicing Batman, I could only compare this scene to a similar one. Having the right anti-venom on hand for just such an occasion makes just as little sense here as it did in Resident Evil.
Okay, I don't even know what the heck he's referencing here, but Batman doesn't have the anti-venom. He sends Alfred a sample of the neurotoxin and tells him to develop the anti-venom as fast as possible.
Batman can track Electrocutioner's electromagnetic signal to where Joker is holding a meeting. There would be so much interference with all the other electromagnetic signals one would find in a city, this would be impossible.
Considering Alfred said he was able to isolate the exact signal, it is far from impossible. He simply has to track the very signal Alfred isolated and follow it.
I don't know what the Electrocutioner's deal is, or why he's so abused in this game, but I would think he could probably handle the Joker in a fight.
Maybe he could. But when you have a madman pointing a gun right in your face, no matter what protection you may have at the time, you're not going to think straight. Plus, he's the guy with the money. Killing him would mean no payday if he were to somehow kill Batman.
Making an example out of someone only works if you can do the same to others who fail to live up to your expectations. I highly doubt Joker could handle Bane or Firefly. Also, after seeing Joker murder Electrocutioner, they could decide this isn't worth the $50 million and wash their hands of all this.
Bane doesn't even care about the money. He just wants to kill Batman. Firefly is frankly too stupid to question whether Joker's threat even matters because he just wants to light things on fire. He wasn't really making a point out of Electrocutioner, he was just putting him in his place.
The Electrocutioner's gloves allow Batman to charge electrical devices and tase people while fighting. Shame he didn't keep those.
Probably because they broke sometime after this game. They look pretty flimsy is all I'm saying.
A lot of these funhouse puzzles could only be solved with equipment Batman only gained tonight, like Deathstroke's wire launcher and the Electrocutioner's gauntlets.
Batman wasn't expected to get through this funhouse. He was expected to fail, leading to the death of the hostages, or die himself. Notice that Joker says he's going to shoot the architect after Batman escapes.
He's my payaso. Remember, you gave your word.
Didn't you hire him to kill Batman? I'm getting mixed signals.
Yes, but Joker has Batman right here with quite the display he can show off. He may want Batman dead right now, but he's also a showman at heart, and will never deny giving himself a good laugh.
It's a tradition in my house to open one present each on Christmas Eve. How about this one?
I know why Joker becomes infatuated with Batman in the future, but I can't understand why he put a price on Batman's head when his plan was to blow up buildings throughout Gotham. His obsession doesn't begin until after this when Batman saves his life, so why involve Batman at all?
What gave you the idea that his main plan was to blow up buildings? These bombs are just collateral to ensure that Batman, or Bane for that matter, go along with his plans. He has the very building he's standing in wired to blow. Why would he blow it as part of his plan?
Wired plunger detonators are a poor choice when your bombs are miles away in some cases. The amount of cabling would be massive, and one break anywhere along the wire would stop the detonation.
Joker isn't exactly known for his foolproof plans, let alone for his budget. He'd waste millions of dollars just to spray paint his logo on the side of a building. Spending countless dollars on wiring is far from the stupidest he'd go.
I've long waited for this moment. With your death, I will find peace.
What was stopping Bane from going after Batman before the contract was put on him? And I know the old backstory of Bane had him being tormented by bats, but how is killing a guy who dresses like one going to bring him peace?
Bane may be smart, but he's also irrational. He doesn't go after Batman before this because he knows next to nothing about him in a city he also knows nothing about. He thinks he'll find peace because that's just how he thinks. Don't question villain motives when they're literally drug addicts.
Since Bane is only known for doing one thing, breaking Batman's back, we get to see this moment yet again.
Yeah, and he does it in the final fight.
Stop me if you've heard this one before. The Bane fight boils down to letting Bane run at you, then jumping out of the way, then pulling venom hoses out of him.
Only this one actually requires critical thinking and good reaction time. You can cheese the hell out of Asylum Bane, but you get no luxury here.
I won't stand by and watch you kill yourself. I'm calling Captain Gordon.
Alfred, I don't think you need to worry about calling the police. If that building Joker blew up didn't get their attention, then a phone call won't.
Sure, it got their attention. That just means they're on the scene wondering who the hell blew the building up. Alfred will be providing information on the matter, and they're already pretty dang close to the scene of the crime. The building was literally across the street.
Take him to Blackgate.
The prison that was raided and destroyed by Joker earlier tonight.
And literally the only high-security prison in Gotham.
Tell me something, dear. Have you ever had a really bad day?
Who needs original concepts when we can recycle all these old ones? At least the developers didn't have to lie about the inclusion of Red Hood in this Arkham game, unlike how they did in Arkham Knight.
Throwing shade at Arkham Knight in a video about everything wrong with Arkham Origins. Plus, this is definitively Joker's origin in the Arkham timeline. Why wouldn't they include it?
The developers couldn't figure out how to shoehorn a visit to Crime Alley in Origins, so they have Batman hallucinate it when returning to the Batcave, just in case you somehow forgot how Bruce Wayne's parents died.
Considering you can still go to Crime Alley for a crime scene investigation in this game, they actually found 2 ways to shoehorn it in, one of which is better than most of the other games. Also, setting Batman's origin story in his origin game.
Crime Alley has looked different in every single Arkham game.
He was 8 years old when his parents were murdered in that alley. Trauma is going to make some details pretty muddled.
I hoped you might finally be ready to celebrate Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve ended hours ago, Alfred. It's Christmas Day now.
True, but they still need to celebrate it one way or another. When you have a Christmas Eve party, it doesn't automatically end when Christmas Day strikes. You keep partying until everyone goes home way too late to wake up with terrible hangovers when their kids wake them up at 6 a.m.
Looks like a match for your globular projectile for non-lethal restraint.
You mean the glue grenade?
Cryo grenades were a gadget Batman came up with in Arkham City. This game being a prequel, but using all the same gadgets from Arkham City to save money, gets glue grenades that do the same thing. And now you have to wonder why Batman never used his glue grenades ever again.
Wow, there are a lot of things wrong here. Firstly, Batman didn't come up with the cryoblast in City. Mr. Freeze did and gave it to him. Secondly, the glue grenade was made of a very unstable chemical compound that made them disintegrate on New Year's Eve, meaning he never found a replacement chemical to make them again.
Must have been 400 pounds of muscle. Took 6 cops to gun that bastard down. Yeah, I saw the body in the morgue. Couldn't believe it.
Sounds like this could be Bane or one of his men. If I hurry to the GCPD morgue, I can inspect the body and the autopsy report.
This game has run out of areas for Batman to explore, so it starts sending him back to places he's already been. This is especially egregious when you've set your game in a city.
Considering backtracking is an aspect of basically every open world game in existence, this is hardly as egregious as you're making it out to be. I didn't hear you complaining during the Return to the Steel Mill during the finale to Arkham City, or Stag's airships during the City of Fear in Arkham Knight. So, you're just looking to pad the sin count, it seems.
I will not in good conscience allow you to go. You're outmatched by these assassins.
What?
You're not some hardened vigilante. You're a young man with a trust fund and too much anger.
I blame all of that MTV you used to watch when you were younger, Master Wayne.
I don't care that this was a joke. You sinned this fantastic scene. Take your sins and move on.
There was no reason to sneak into Gotham PD's morgue to check if the body the police described as being similar to Bane was the real one. Batman placed a tracker on Bane when they fought the last time. Batman even follows that very tracking device after discovering the dead guy was just one of Bane's goons using venom.
The tracker wasn't online until after Batman investigated the body, so there's no way he could have tracked Bane before now.
Bane knows Batman's identity and therefore knows where he lives. Instead of acting on that information after taking the assassination contract, he decided to wait around until Batman presented himself. Why even bother with Joker's contract hit if it was something he was going to do anyway?
We don't know when Bane discovered this information. For all we know, it could have been moments after the tracker went online. Hell, look just a little deeper into this scene and that was probably the case. The footage Bane has pulled up is an interview with Vicky Vale where Bruce says, "You just ran out of time." The very same thing Batman said to him on the rooftop when Gordon arrived. He was able to put 2 and 2 together and figure it out. Furthermore, he then acts on this information and goes to wreck the Batcave.
The game never bothers explaining how Bane figured out Batman was Bruce Wayne. I guess you just have to have read Bane's introductory comic series. Origins can't decide which Batman series it wants to be. Year 1, Killing Joke or Nightfall.
Just explained why. Moving on.
Alfred, Firefly has hostages on the Pioneers Bridge. I need to deal with him before coming back.
Where did these hostages Firefly takes on the bridge come from? I've seen nothing but roving goon squads in Gotham tonight due to the snowstorm and curfew.
So you start the video complaining about the fact that Origins has a subpar reason for everyone being in their homes.
With Origins' lazy excuse, I don't think they should have bothered.
Then complain when that exact reason leads to some people being out on the streets, able to be kidnapped and used as hostages by Firefly. You can't have it both ways, mate. You gotta pick one.
Instead of using the Batwing to battle the men with a jetpack, Batman uses it to distract him so he can disarm the bombs. Which, by the way, makes the second bomb plotline in this game. After a prison raid, a building being blown up, and now a hostage situation, I have to wonder why Gotham isn't crawling with the National Guard or being evacuated. It only took one gas attack from the Scarecrow in Arkham Knight to make everyone leave.
Firstly, how is he going to battle someone in the Batwing? This isn't Night Batman with Joker influencing him to put guns on all his vehicles. He has literally nothing to fight Firefly with on the Batwing. Secondly, it's like 4 a.m. Christmas morning, and all of these events have happened in the span of like 8 hours. The National Guard may be powerful, but they aren't going to roll out to a crime-infested city in the midst of a snowstorm in that short amount of time. And what are they going to do against deadly assassins after a $50 million bounty?
Joker's behind bars. There's no more prize money. You can give up now or I can make you surrender.
That argument should actually work. I doubt Firefly would work for free, and after this act of terrorism, he would be one of the most wanted men in the country.
Firefly is an idiot. If he has the opportunity to burn something, he will. Plus, he's too far down the rabbit hole to just stop his destruction now. He's probably thinking that Batman is just bluffing to get him to stop, which he doesn't want to risk because $50 million is a lot of freaking money.
Come home, say your goodbyes. Once you've had time to turn grief into anger, then you'll be ready to face me.
While Batman was dealing with Firefly, Bane broke into the Batcave and chucked Alfred over a cliff, hoping that it would make Batman angry enough to fight him all out. I would have at least made sure Alfred was going to die if that was the plan.
Well, he did die. Batman was able to resuscitate him, but for all intents and purposes, Alfred did die.
Don't add me to the weight you carry.
Why even try to trick the player into thinking Alfred died? This is a prequel, and Alfred is around in the other Arkham games.
They aren't trying to trick the player into thinking Alfred is dead. They're setting up for one of the most emotionally charged moments of this game.
The Joker has escaped from his cell and is leading the riots at Blackgate. Repeat, the Joker has taken over the entire prison.
That makes twice in one night the Blackgate prison has been overrun.
Sinning the plot for being the plot.
It all ends where it began cliché.
Not really a cliche when we go to a single hallway for the second time in this prison.
How did Black Mask's former men get inside the prison to help Joker once he escaped from his cell?
They took over the entire prison, including the security gates, so they simply broke in.
You had a chance to let me die, and you didn't take it. I bet right now you're wishing you had.
And this should be Exhibit A for why Batman's stance on killing or not allowing criminals to die is incredibly naive.
See newsflash, one amazing scene.
So, what our friend Bane holds in his hand is a heart monitor. Once he clamps it on, every beat of his bacon little heart will charge the battery on this electric chair. And when it's fully charged...
So in what couldn't have been much time after Joker broke out of his cell, he met up with Bane, who decided to have his fight with Batman in a maximum security prison, and they hatched a plan to connect a heart monitor to Bane that would set off an electric chair Joker would be strapped to. And I doubt the tech for this was just lying around. And I highly doubt Blackgate's electric chair is located on a suspended platform over a fighting arena, studded with monitors that show Bane's heart rate.
Yes, it's absurd, but that's how Joker works. Like I said, he's a showman at heart.
Your final boss fight should never be a repeated boss fight.
Only one repeat there, mate. By the way, have you ever played Super Mario Galaxy? That final boss is awesome, and it's literally just a more in-depth version of the previous two Bowser fights. Plus, this is only Phase 1. Phase 2 is a completely different boss with unique mechanics that completely debunks your point.
The devs already used this famous moment earlier. This time, though, they follow through with a knee drop. No broken spine, though.
Begging for fan service, then sinning it. Found the guy who hated the endgame portal scene, everyone.
Use my shock gloves to temporarily stop Bane's heart.
There's no guarantee that defibrillation will restart a person's heart. You could also just remove the heart monitor from Bane.
You're right on that first part, but how the hell did you miss the very thing Joker said when the fight started? If they remove the heart monitor, it explodes. Now that could very well be a lie, but Batman isn't going to risk that.
Well, I'd love to stay and celebrate your victory, but I've got stockings to stuff, mistletoe to hang, and about 15 skyscrapers to blow up before sunrise.
All of the detonators were destroyed by Bane's rocket, and I would hope Gotham PD had put some time into disarming those bombs by now.
Joker is absolutely crazy enough to plant even more bombs and get detonators ready in the few hours before sunrise.
The second half of the Bane fight is just a repeat of the Mr. Freeze boss fight from Arkham City.
Not only do you acknowledge the existence of this second phase and the fact that it's different, but you have the balls to compare it to Mr. Freeze just because it's a stealth boss? Don't even try, especially when an actual Mr. Freeze fight exists in this very game.
Must find Batman.
Bane's venom causes memory loss. That was something the game went out of its way to point out just so it could steer around the plot hole of Bane not knowing who Batman is in the other Arkham games. He forgets nothing else except that one fact. And if Bane was smart enough to figure out Batman's identity once, what's stopping him from figuring it out again in the future?
First, not praising the devs for coming up with a creative solution to Rocksteady's mistake of dumb Bane. Second, it's not Venom, but TN1 that Bane injects himself with, and it causes permanent memory loss that leaves the subject, for lack of a better word, primitive. He's not going to be smart like he was here ever again.
Looks like Black Mask entered the prison here. I need to find Commissioner Loeb before it's too late.
Roger Craig Smith is the Batman we deserve, just not the one we need right now.
Sending Roger Craig Smith after complimenting his performance.
Somewhere out there is a company that makes pants for giant man-eating humanoid crocodiles.
Or just one that makes pants in general. Companies can make any clothing size if you give them the money for it.
Asian Alfred.
What? What about this model suggests Asian descent? And why would that be a sin? You racist, bro? Sure, Origins doesn't have the best models in the series by a long shot, but you could have found a much better way of addressing it than that.
Where's the challenge in solving these crime scenes? Pointy red arrows tell you exactly where to scan. It's hard to feel like the world's greatest detective when your hand is being held the whole way through.
The challenge isn't in finding what to scan, it's in performing the reconstructions. If you had to find every piece of evidence yourself with absolutely no indication until you hover your cursor over it, that would be bad game design.
Deadly electricity-wielding assassin taken out by one kick to the face.
Multiple sins to you as well for sending the best fight in the series.
The most hyped-up assassin is taken out in one fight.
One amazing and difficult fight that many agree is one of the best in the series.
Scene contains neither threesome nor a lap dance.
The hell do you call these two casually sitting on his lap and caressing him then? That's about as close to a lap dance as you can get in a T-rated game.
Batman is able to make an exact copy of a crime scene that was not completely photographed or sketched.
He's not making an exact copy of the crime scene. He's standing in the crime scene and reenacting as much of the crime as he can.
These cops are dicks to homeless people.
Sinning characterization. These cops are corrupt dicks, plain and simple.
This game takes place 5 years prior to Arkham Asylum, right? So is it realistic for Gordon to go from brown hair to a full head of white hair in just 5 years?
It actually takes place about 9 years before Asylum. It takes the average human about 10 years for all their hair to go gray. This process can be accelerated, however, through stress. As commissioner of the GCPD, Gordon will constantly be under a lot of stress, making his hair go gray much faster.
Alfred, uploading analysis of a neurotoxin. I need you to synthesize an antidote.
Sir, the drop container has arrived. Can you see it?
I see it.
Alfred can apparently synthesize an antidote to a toxin he's never seen before, and have it shipped to Batman in a matter of minutes.
He may not have seen it before, but Batman uploaded a complete analysis of the neurotoxin with a full chemical breakdown, giving Alfred all the data he needs to synthesize an antidote for those chemicals. And more than anything, this scene just proves that Batman is nothing without Alfred in this game.
$50 million on the line, and all the assassins can sit comfortably in the same room together.
Probably because Joker, implemented some kind of rule system so the assassins aren't constantly fighting each other rather than hunting Batman. Plus, there's only 3 of them in this room, one of which is an idiotic pyromaniac who could easily burn everyone in this room alive.
Sir, I strongly suggest you call in Captain Gordon. He could be a valuable ally for you.
I don't need any allies.
Well, that's just harsh. What does that make Alfred?
Sinning characterization again.
You of all people should know. There's nothing so cruel as memory.
Troy Baker is the Joker we deserve, just not the one we need right now.
Also, sinning Troy Baker right after complimenting him.
I will not in good conscience allow you to go. You're outmatched by these assassins.
What?
Outmatched. By this point in the game, you could have taken care of all but 2 of the assassins. I fail to see how Batman is outmatched.
He literally just lost to Bane on the Gotham Royal and almost died to Copperhead in the steel mill, only surviving because Alfred was there to assist him. The only challenging one he's dealt with on his own is Deathstroke, and that's only because he's only engaged him in basic martial arts combat.
I should have gotten to that last bomb.
Yeah. And I should have given you access to that security door. But between the 2 of us, we covered it pretty well.
Batman pulls his first Batman on Gordon.
Sinning one of the greatest character dynamics in the Batman franchise.
Come home. Say your goodbyes. Once you've had time to turn grief into anger, then you'll be ready to face me.
Why didn't Bane just stay in the Batcave to fight Batman? We know he's not interested in the money, that was made clear several times, so there was no reason for him to work with the Joker, and he knew Batman would return to find Alfred.
Maybe you'd understand if you actually listened to what Bane said. He may want to kill Batman, but he also wants a fight out of it. He wants Bruce to turn the grief of losing Alfred into anger strong enough to fight him, even running the potential to kill him, knowing that will break Batman more than dying himself.
Touching and sad moment ruined by the fact that we know Alfred's not going to die.
Everyone has sinned this incredible scene, so I'm just gonna add 50 sins onto the tally for how much you've all pissed me off.
I got a pulse. I'm gonna jumpstart your heart. Kill you again.
Useless Assassin proves that he is still crucial to the plot.
He was crucial to the plot all the way back when you first got the shock gloves. You know, when Joker pushed him out of the window and he died?
How do we know Bane's become a raging monster? Let's have him yell in Batman's face a few times. Yep, that'll do. The force of these punches were able to break through a couple inches of concrete, so why is Batman still able to stand?
Because he...
I guess it's because he's Batman, right?
Yes! Exactly!
And it appears the TN1 Bane took damaged his memory permanently.
Does that mean he won't be revealing your identity?
Looks that way.
Glad to hear it, sir.
Villain who knows the main character's identity suffers memory loss cliché. Smallville? Anyone?
Considering how WB had to come up with some reason for Bane to be an idiot in the other installments, this cliché is negated.
Is multiplayer for a Batman game really necessary? Either way, it's still a sin.
Sinning one of the best additions to Arkham Origins that I can guarantee you didn't play, or else you wouldn't have called it a sin.
This skin doesn't exist. Why? F you, that's why.
No, because when they tried to implement it, it corrupted save data. Believe you me, I want this skin too, but I'm not compromising my 100% save file for a cool looking skin I'd ultimately never wear.
I'm gonna kill you. Then I'm gonna jumpstart your heart. And kill you again.